Hasan Piker singing a song mocking Charlie Kirk's death at his event this weekend. Yeah. Well, he's certainly a shoe-in to win Hamas Got Talent. That Piker treats his murder as a punchline for easy laughs from the mob.
They are going to racially profile us, and they are going to escalate things, and they are going to shoot and kill us, and they are going to get away with it unless we send people like me to Washington, D.C. Do I support reparations? Absolutely. I'm the only candidate in the race that will say that. And folks often say, like, oh, are you going to be able to work across the aisle with the Republicans? They are not trying to work across the aisle. They are literally trying to kill us.
Literally? Great. Republicans are literally trying to kill black people.
Greg Gutfeld devoted his main monologue to a controversy involving political streamer Hasan Piker, the Democratic Socialists of America, and Florida Senate candidate Angie Nixon. Piker is facing criticism after performing a viral song associated with the late conservative activist Charlie Kirk during a live podcast event. Critics interpreted the performance as mocking Kirk's death, although Piker has previously condemned the assassination and political violence more broadly. Gutfeld then connected that controversy to the electoral success of candidates supported by the Democratic Socialists of America. His central argument was that extreme political rhetoric is no longer confined to obscure corners of the internet and is increasingly influencing mainstream elections. Here is how Gutfeld introduced the controversy.
Hasan Piker singing a song mocking Charlie Kirk's death at his event this weekend. Yeah. Well, he's certainly a shoe-in to win Hamas Got Talent.
The important context is that Piker and Kirk had debated political issues before Kirk's death. Their disagreements were intense, but their public interactions remained generally civil. That history is why this performance produced such a strong reaction. Even if the song was intended as internet satire, performing it before a cheering audience created the impression that a political assassination had become material for entertainment. Piker has previously condemned Kirk's killing and warned about the normalization of political violence. That context should not be ignored. At the same time, intent does not completely erase impact. When political opponents become punchlines immediately after real-world violence, the boundary between satire and dehumanization becomes dangerously thin. Gutfeld's argument is that political disagreement should not eliminate basic respect for human life.
Nationwide primaries, over 30 at the state level, racking up victories like a trans chick at a girls' track meet. Angie Nixon won in Florida. Here's a taste of what got her elected, including her claim that ICE would kill blacks.
They are going to racially profile us, and they are going to escalate things, and they are going to shoot and kill us, and they are going to get away with it unless we send people like me to Washington, D.C. Do I support reparations? Absolutely. I'm the only candidate in the race that will say that.
Not extreme to want to make sure that we end for-profit prisons. They want us cheap labor or free labor, modern-day slavery.
And folks often say, like, oh, are you going to be able to work across the aisle with the Republicans? They are not trying to work across the aisle. They are literally trying to kill us.
Literally.
Those are extremely serious accusations. Angie Nixon argues that immigration enforcement will result in racial profiling and potentially deadly encounters for Black Americans. She also supports reparations, ending for-profit prisons, and major changes to the country's immigration enforcement system, but claims this serious require equally serious evidence. ICE and the Department of Homeland Security deny targeting people based on race and maintain that enforcement decisions are based on immigration status and legal standards. Nixon and immigration advocates argue that aggressive enforcement can still produce discriminatory outcomes, even when racial targeting is not the official policy. That disagreement deserves a factual policy debate. Saying that an opposing political party is literally trying to kill an entire community, however, transforms a policy dispute into an accusation of intentional violence. Gutfeld's reaction focuses on the danger of rhetoric that portrays every political opponent as a physical threat.
With bad movies, horrible landmarks, and Halloween candy. Necco wafers, candy corn, bit of honey. Now tell me, where am I supposed to put the razor blades? Instant failures become classics simply by enduring. It reminds me of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. A building that failed due to unstable soil should have been demolished, but instead its defect made it a tourist attraction. But no one can inhabit it because it's not fit for living. Perhaps it's there to serve as a reminder that some screw-ups are so big, you keep them as a warning to mankind.
This is one of the strongest analogies in Gutfeld's monologue. The Leaning Tower of Pisa became internationally famous because of the same engineering defect that made it impractical. Gutfeld argues that socialism survives in political culture through a similar process. Repeated failure can eventually become part of the ideology's appeal. His comparison is intentionally exaggerated for comedy, but it raises a legitimate historical question. Why do political systems associated with economic collapse, authoritarian control, and human suffering continue attracting new supporters? Supporters respond that democratic socialism, European social programs, and authoritarian communism are not interchangeable. That distinction matters. A serious discussion should examine individual policies instead of treating every public program as the same system. But Gutfeld's larger warning concerns idealizing an ideology while dismissing its historical consequences.
Because they've never done anything, period. That's basically the resume for a socialist. They invent nothing, build nothing, they only destroy. Which is why socialism cannot be called a system at all. It's an anti-system, a solvent that dissolves the existing structure but cannot hold its shape when the old one is gone. Karl Marx spent his life writing about why markets are evil, but almost zilch on what to do after you've destroyed it. That's because their success is measured by how much of the existing order they can destroy, and not whether you make things better. It's not defining a better way to run a society. It's creating a permanent moral license to oppose whatever a system currently exists.
He's a capitalist, but he should be in jail.
Thank you. Stu, welcome to the show. I'm a big fan of you and Dave Landau's podcast on The Blaze. It's quite enjoyable.
Thank you. Yes, Dave's awesome. I'm all right.
Yes, you're okay.
Gutfeld's description of socialism as an anti-system is the intellectual center of his argument. He believes revolutionary political movements are often much better at identifying injustice and destroying existing institutions than they are at building workable replacements. That criticism applies beyond one ideology. Opposing an existing system is relatively easy. Designing a replacement that protects individual rights, produces economic stability, and remains accountable to the public is much harder. However, describing every socialist as someone who creates nothing is an intentionally broad generalization. Many voters who use the socialist label are primarily asking for healthcare reform, stronger labor protections, or a larger social safety net, not a violent revolution. The most useful question is therefore not what label someone uses, but what policies they support and how those policies would function in practice.
Yeah, it is kind of if they see everything in the relationship of power, it's almost like they're asking for it, Kat.
No, I agree. I do agree that it's a real problem because for what they are, their branding is so good. There is still a large segment of the population that believes that, look, hey man, we just want health care is really what it's all about.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the difference between generosity, which is voluntary, and then socialism, which is coercion. It's forcibly taking things from people that don't belong to you, and it's been so unsuccessful. And I think that there needs to be more talk about, hey, listen, listen, we want to help you. We want everyone to be prosperous and healthy and all that, but this is why this does not lead to.
This panel response identifies why socialist messaging can remain politically attractive. Words such as healthcare, fairness, worker protection, and economic security sound compassionate because they address real concerns. The disagreement begins when politicians explain how those goals will be funded, administered, and enforced. Critics view compulsory taxation and government control as coercive, Supporters argue that taxation is the shared mechanism democratic societies use to fund services that individuals cannot provide by themselves. Both sides can claim that they want people to live healthy and prosperous lives. The actual debate is about which system can deliver those outcomes without concentrating too much power in government or leaving vulnerable people without support. That is the policy discussion hidden beneath the comedy and partisan attacks in this segment. The most important issue in this Gutfeld segment is not whether every joke was fair or whether every comparison was perfectly precise. The deeper issue is what happens when political disagreement becomes personal hatred. Mocking a murdered opponent, predicting violence from the other party, or treating millions of voters as enemies may generate attention, but it makes meaningful debate almost impossible. Gutfeld uses comedy to argue that extreme ideas should be confronted before they become normalized. But the same standard should apply across the political spectrum. Challenge the policy, examine the evidence, and never allow disagreement to become an excuse for celebrating violence.
Trump forgives creepy lawyer pal.
Do you remember, sir, when I went on CNN with Breonna Keeler and she told me that you were underwater in the polls, and I responded with those famous 2 words, "says who," which became some worldwide meme.
A
And
good advocate, and then they weaponized you like nobody's ever been weaponized, like few have been.
well, maybe just you and I, sir.
And
But
you, yeah, me too, but I don't consider mine, mine was at a level that nobody's ever seen before. But they weaponized you, they weaponized a lot of people. And I respect the fact that you recanted everything you said, and that's a big thing that you did. That's a very big thing.
All right, so Stu, what does this say about Trump and it's so weird that he has all these enemies that he ends up forgiven, which kind of goes against the grain of everybody saying he holds grudges.
Well, Washington's longest-running political divorce has officially entered the reunion special phase. Michael Cohen went from Trump's loyal attorney to one of his loudest critics. There were investigations, testimony, books, and enough public insults to fill an entire streaming series. But now Trump appears on Cohen's show and praises him for recanting his earlier statements. The Gutfeld panel's explanation is simple. Trump does not store grudges, he rents them. If you criticize him today, you are a total disaster. Compliment him tomorrow, and suddenly you are a tremendous person with a very bright future. Cohen says this is about forgiveness, although he has also submitted another pardon request. Apparently, nothing repairs a damaged relationship faster than the possibility of executive clemency. But Kat delivered the most useful advice. Trump forgiving Michael Cohen does not mean you should text your ex. Trump has lawyers, security, and a motorcade. You have a cracked phone and 3 friends already telling you this is a terrible idea.
I love sports. They ejected the trans and put a turtle in the stands. Over the weekend, former NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom, close, was ejected from the crowd of a WNBA game. After one of the players, Natasha Cloud, started shouting at him during a timeout. Kanter's been a vocal advocate of protecting women's sports, but when he cheered for Sophie Cunningham, all hell broke loose.
Right before the break, this was the scene inside Wintrust Arena after Natasha Cloud got that bucket. She wanted her voice heard. We have talked about the conversations surrounding the W. That is Enes Kanter in the building today. And he has voiced how he's felt about the situation. Natasha Cloud voicing her opinion as well. Kanter was just escorted out.
I haven't seen a woman that upset since I put my tank top back on at the gym.
Next, the show moved to the WNBA, where a former NBA center was removed from the crowd. A player confronted him during a timeout, and the actual basketball game briefly became the least important event in the arena. Enes Kanter Freedom was sitting courtside wearing a shirt expressing his position on the transgender athlete debate. After Chicago Sky guard Natasha Cloud shouted in his direction, security escorted him out. Then Gutfeld introduced Dez, the Toronto Tempo's new snapping turtle mascot. Dez uses she and they pronouns. DJs is a Taurus and reportedly enjoys softshell tacos. That is not a mascot biography, that is a dating profile created by a marketing department. The WNBA is beginning to resemble basketball combined with reality television and cable news. Fans can identify every controversy, every argument, and every mascot's zodiac sign, but they may still need Google to discover the final score. At least the basketball remained calm. It was safely located somewhere outside the camera shot.